Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classics. This is episode number 1769 and Doubleshot number 1663. I have two Marvel trades. First one is basically issues that came up in the year of, from what I can tell, I think it was like 2009 to about 2010, I think. We have New Mutants by Zeb Wells, the complete collection. This thing collects the first 11 issues, along with issues 15 and 21 of New Mutants Volume 3, New Mutants Marvel Spotlight, and material from the Rorschach X. The Rorschach one, not going to talk about that one. Marvel Spotlight, it just basically stuff basically talking about this book. I'm also not going to discuss these following issues for their published in this trade, 6 to 8 and 11. The reason why, 6 to 8 is part of the Rorschach crossover, and I've already discussed issues already. In the case of issue 11, it's a standalone issue tying into Siege. And that is actually, believe it or not, one of 4 standalone issues this entire run. Yes. Yeah, the series was brought back in 2009. After it had been gone, it was briefly brought back in, I think it was like 03, I think it was, as a very brief ongoing series. Didn't focus on the New Mutants themselves per se. It focused on like a new generation of mutants per se. And that one, you could say, was just a lot of setup for a replacement series, New X-Men Academy X, which was later relaunched simply as New X-Men after issue 23, I think it was. That's when they dropped title Academy X to be called New X-Men Volume 2 for the rest of the series. This book here is mostly a replacement for Young X-Men. That's basically what the series is basically doing. Now, the first story arc is called Return of Legion. And the story starts off in Utopia. Utopia was something that came out, it was something the X-Men were doing. This was, believe it or not, 13 years ago this happened. The reason why this happened in universe was because Norman Osborn had the Force Map of San Francisco. It was him and Simon Trask, the brother of Boulevard Trask, the creator of the Sentinels, who basically passed this stupid law known as Proposition X in California, nonetheless, which forbids by law that mutants can't have children. Wow, this was stupid. In universe, this was a stupid idea. And heck, even Cyclops thought this was stupid. Yes, Cyclops. So basically what they did is that they rose up Asteroid M as Utopia. It's basically its own separate country. This is before Krakatoa did this 10 years later. Where it was a floating island with engines for a little bit until, this was mainly explained in pages on Kenny X-Men, that Magneto talked to Namor, which actually the Atlanteans moved there, thanks to Namor being part of the X-Men, and decided to establish a pillar underneath the island to keep the island afloat. And this managed to last for a few years, so the island finally sank in 2012. Actually, it sunk a long time. It didn't finally. I don't think it finally went down the ocean again until about 2015. I think it was. Yeah, about 2015. It was there for quite a while. So the purpose of the pillar was to keep the island up. There are two purposes: keep the island afloat and serve as a home for the Atlanteans. That was the simple purpose of the pillar. And the pillar itself did make a freak appearances in the brief ongoing series Namor the First Mutant, when the first issues were tie-in to Cursed Mutants, which is an excellent story, by the way, though it did turn Jubilee into a vampire. This book was launched around the same time as that, so basically with this book we reunite the Mutant Mutants, most of the original family members at this point. So basically Limbo's in trouble, again because it's Limbo and it's constantly associated with the New Mutants. Mostly, but this group is comprised of some older members and like 1 or 2 new members. The only new member who joins this group when this book first starts is Pixie. Yep, she joins the team. The team itself starts out with Sunspot, Danny Moonstar, Cannonball, who was leader of the team, for a while until like Dan Abnett takes over the book and is switched over to Danny Moonstar for some reason. And we also have Karma and Amor on the team as well, where they actually find her in the first story arc. And the team is put together. It's suggested by Cyclops and, of course, Cannonball. The team itself is operated as a separate team from the X-Men. I have spoken to Bob McLean, the guy who co-created the New Mutants with Chris Claremont. He hated this idea. He absolutely hated the idea of the New Mutants being a separate team from the X-Men. He absolutely despised the idea because it betrayed the original idea that him and Chris Claremont did when they first created this team back in the 80s, which was a trainee squad for the X-Men, basically training the future X-Men. That was the purpose of the New Mutants. He hated this idea. He absolutely despised it. This is according to Bob McLean. He told me this when I met him at Comic-Con. He hated this idea for New Mutants. So, they deal with this, and in the storyline, we see the return of David Heller, a.k.a. Legion, a.k.a. the son of Professor Charles Xavier, who had not been seen in years. Yes, let me look up and see what was his last appearance prior to this very storyline, because it had been some time since he was last seen. Yeah, news do come back. It lasts for a few years. 2020 was when this book lasted for. Now, Leeds himself, prior to the story, he had not been seen in quite a long time. Let's see. I think it was... Okay, Legion had not been seen since the end of Age of Apocalypse, since X-Men Omega #1. That was released back in 1995. Yes. That was the last time anybody saw Legion. Yes. He is supposed to have been killed by Bishop. This was the Age of Apocalypse Bishop who killed him in order to event the Age of Apocalypse event. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was like his last appearance. Well, he did make one appearance in issue of Excalibur. I think it made like a mention. Let's see. I don't think he physically appeared in the book. Yeah, I think he did appear briefly because he was still dead at this point. And of course, he did appear in an issue of X-Men Forever, which was a miniseries. Does time travel stuff, but yeah, this was his first appearance, like officially, since that book. Because this issue came out in May 2009. That's when issue 1 came out. He died in April of 1995, which is the end of the X-Men Omega one-shot, which was the conclusion to the Age of Apocalypse event. As for why in the world Zeb Wells brought him back, my only guess is the reason why he brought him back. One, he was probably asked to, and two, Marvel probably had plans for him. Because they did. Not much, mind you, but they did. And he's actually part of this group somewhat, per se. He's not in all the issues. No, he isn't. And if you're thinking, how long does he stay in this book? Not very long. Like, as soon as basically Zeb Wells wraps up this run, which, it was right after Age of X crossover, which happened not long after this. Yeah, he can move over to X-Men Legacy for quite a while. And he's in the book, because I make a couple of guest appearances as the book. He basically was X-Men Legacy up until the final issue, issue 24. Excuse me. Yes. And then he came back for a miniseries, which I haven't reviewed it yet, but I have read it. It's pretty good. It's by Peter Milligan, which makes total sense for him to do this. And then they brought him back for X-Men Disassembled. He was part of a miniseries, Age of X-Men, Prisoner of X. He was a Way of X, Onslaught Revolution one-shot, Trap Magneto #5, and a Infinite. It's like, he did somewhat after this. He was basically a semi-regular character for a few years And then Marvel just stopped using him. Yes. So when he finally returned in Legion, #1, that was his first appearance in 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. Like, because here's the thing. Like, I reviewed the stuff that came after this. Pretty much almost all of it. The only thing I have not reviewed yet is Age of X-Men, Prisoner of X. I don't remember if I reviewed this one. Way of X, Onslaught Revolution. I reviewed some of the stuff that came afterwards. I would say actually a good chunk of this. But that was pretty much basically... So, he's here as sort of a recurring character, but he's not a member of the team per se. He's here for this opening story, which probably has 4 issues. Great start to this, basically built the team up, and was their first mission. Issue 5 is the first of 4 standalone issues this entire run. The other standalone issues are issues 9, 10, and 11. 5 is basically basically kind of the epilogue to the very first story arc. That's simply the purpose of it. Issue 10 is basically Cyclops debating, is there a real purpose to the mutants? And basically that's just the whole purpose of the damn thing. Thunderbox, issue 9. Yes. Issue 9, mind you, is basically, in a way, the best way to describe issue 9 is just basically a aftermath issue of the Doubleshot. So it's kind of the same way as issue 5 of this run, where this issue serves as the epilogue to the Mutants tie-in to the Doubleshot. Them dealing with the after effects of this very crossover. Yep, that was the simple purpose of this issue. Just dealing with the after effects. Because basically, in the aftermath of the story, during the story, Cypher, aka Doug Ramsey, he was resurrected, and Warlock returned to the team just prior to that. But you could say that would be the purpose of the issue, but mostly what Thunderbox is setting up the finale for this run. That's mainly the purpose of issue 9. Well, I'll see with it's a twofold purpose. It starts up the fall and rise of mutants, plus basically the aftermath issue. And just debatable stuff. Issue 10 also has a guest appearance by Chiron. An old X-Men Kaiser villain. Yep. Now, after issue 11, which was the Doubleshot, which basically was the Siege tie-in, now you might be thinking, okay, why isn't issues 12 to 14 here? Well, excuse me. There's a very good reason for that. Because these 3 issues are part of one of my favorite X-Men crossovers that happened while I've been reading comic books. Second Coming. By far, one of the most exciting and gripping crossovers that I've ever read from Marvel. And here's the thing. Do you know how many villain deaths there are? All the villains die in this crossover. Every single one. How many heroic deaths? Like 2. The entire story. Though one gets done right away, not long after the story wraps up. Nightcrawler dies in this crossover. He comes back in Amazing X-Men a few years later. Actually, like 3 years later, he came back. And he's a part of the X-Men since then. Now, 15 and 21 is the Fall and Rise Mutants. Basically, it's the New Mutants versus this military organization who are basically a group of bigots. That is simply the purpose of the storyline. And these people are freaking insane. Like, they kill people. Their scientists are crazy. And one of the scientists, something absolutely disgusting, and I'm not going to show it. I will mention exactly what it is. Basically, the scientist takes a mutant baby, takes this thing you think is an injection. Oh no, it's a thing that basically kind of like a stamp that carves a piece of the baby's belly that causes the baby to bleed, because these scientists don't consider mutants to be people. They consider to be things, basically not human. They suspect they might be aliens or bugs. It's the standard anti-mutant bigotry that's been going on with the X-Men since the 60s. But this is more of an extreme version of it. Yes. But you start off with basically like In the first couple issues of the story, you mostly with the aftermath of said coming, where during the story, Karma, who by the way is one of Marvel's very few open lesbian characters, which Marvel does practically jack frickin' squat with this character, is have outing out some other characters that was focused on other established ones. She lost a leg in the crossover, and to date, she's still got a prosthetic leg. Despite the Krakatoa stuff, she's not got the leg fixed as far as I can tell. Though also, this also is the very story they briefly add Pixie to the team, and then they get like thrown in seventh place. And gotta love the covers. I love the covers for these issues. They're freaking good. The covers for some of these issues, it's quite interesting who does the covers. Issues 1 and 3 through 8 is Adam Kubert and Justin Prudstar. Adam Kubert is the main majority artist for these issues for the first 10 issues of this run. Adam Kubert is solo for issue 2, but 9 and 10 does co-does with Jason Keith. You have Clayton Gray does Neurosha X, Terry Dodson does issue 11, and the artist who does pretty much the remainder of this cover art for this run is Dave Wilkins. Bob McLean does the co-artwork with Avalon's Ian Hand for more of a spotlight issue. Yes. Yeah. But it's kind of odd, though. You have the New Mutants basically being their final villain for this writer's run, who basically brought back the team. And they fight a military organization who are a bunch of bigots. I'm like, really? You don't have them fight established characters. You fight up against a group of characters who just established issue 9 of all things. Yes, they only popped up issue 9, and then nothing was done with them until issue 15. No, seriously, 9 to issue 15 of this very story. Yeah. It's like they first opened that story. By the way, this group is known as Project Purgatory. Yes. The whole thing was going to limbo stuff. It's a very interesting story arc per se, and then by the end of the story arc, the Project Purgatory is never seen again. Excuse me. Nope. Pretty much because, how should I put this? All the characters die. Yes. General Ulysses, who was pretty much the leader of the organization, he dies at the end of the story arc. Yes. Basically, the whole point of the storyline was to bring in the elder gods of Limbo. Which I'm like, okay, so you basically bring back a group of characters from a miniseries of Inferno, which you could say was a backdoor pilot to Disney Mutants run. Yes, kind of in a way. That's mostly what you could say that's pretty much the purpose of this particular storyline. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in the case of basically this run overall, it's a very interesting run per se. I love the opening story arc. Like, it's almost like Zeb Wells wrote this for people who are fans of the classic New Mutants characters. Basically, it's just the modern day version of the character, just doing their own thing. While also basically having out Utopia, because right after this run wrapped up, what happened next? Age of X, which the plot threads from that crossover was continuing the pages of X-Men Legacy, which is where we next see Legion. Magic herself will actually be off the team by the end of this run. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they moved her from the roster, but they did. Pixie, I think, is off the roster by the end of this story arc. Yes, I believe she is, because by the finale of this story arc, like, pretty much in the way, like, by the time Dan Abnett takes over the book with issue 25, mind you, which is called Unfinished Business, basically we have few people leave the team, while also basically setting up stuff basically we see for the rest of the run. Mm-hmm. Yes. Though I'm pretty much in the way basically looking forward to what happens next. Now, pretty much the reason why that some of the the lineup changes is because, well, I think 25 happens after Schism. Yes, it's right after the events of Schism. It's basically the Regenesis stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm definitely looking forward to reviewing the Dead Abbott Annual Landing Run because it's quite interesting to say the least. Yep. So, I'm going to give this book I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Plus, this cover basically is a wraparound cover. It's basically issue 1. That's simply what it is. That's what they did for issue 1. They made a wraparound cover for some reason. Yep. Alright, moving on. Different book. We have Fantastic Four Epic Collection, volume number 23, covering the years of 1983 to 1984, covering issues of the series Fantastic Four 377 392, the 27 annual, and issues 47 48 of Namor. Yep, roughly 1 year before, a little over a year before the series actually ends. Now, in these issues, basically, the Thing does still wear this helmet per se, but at some point when he's briefly captured by Dr. Doom, the helmet is removed. His face is mostly fixed. It's no longer like showing up like inner skin per se. It's back to mostly the same. It's like it's mostly fixed, but still smushed on this side. Sue Storm, after a brief period of time, stops wearing this Fantastic Four costume, which in book got her a lot of flack wearing this out because, oh, you're a mother, you should wear the damn thing, wear that particular uniform. And of course, like, who said made the clothes? We have no clothes. It was just embarrassing the residents. Yes, I think that maybe the reason why the writer decided to have her stop wearing this outfit, maybe because, I don't think it's because the readers would have a problem with this outfit. I think people had no problem with this, but I think, yes, Sue Storm is a married woman, and she is also a mother. But here's the thing. Sue Storm is hot, so she's everywhere basically show off her sexiness. Still hot this very day. But the thing with her is that she probably felt as though, I guess her purpose, so basically she went back to cover up her belly and cover up her cleavage and basically just wear a regular Fantastic Four costume. Lyra, in this story, in this issue, is revealed to be pregnant, except it was implied the baby might be Johnny Storm's, and then when she gives birth, where she revealed prior to that it was not Johnny Storm's baby, it was somebody else's baby, and she gives birth to an egg. Yes, seriously. And there's stuff with Galactus in here, lots of stuff with the Skrulls, even the Watcher appears in here as well, a lot of really cool stuff, includes some time travel, where you have they have an alternate Earth. This is the costume that Sue Storm's wearing from this point forward for a little while. Also in these issues, Reed Richards dies. Yep. Excuse me. Though they kind of bring him back, though, as an alternate version of the character, but not the actor Richards. He was still dead at this point. And they brought in Scott Lang to join the roster to fill in his spot. He's practically hired in the spot. Now, these are your writers for these issues. You have Tom DeFalco, who is pretty much the main writer of these issues. Paul Ryan, who's also the artist. Glenn Harding, who actually writes the Namor issues. Mike Lackey, the late Mark Greenwald, and Lynn Komeski. The other artists are Jeff Isherwood and Mike Govich. Now, you might be curious, though, what about the annual they put in this book? Let's see. The annual itself, also they continue exploring the stuff with Psylord, which, of course, that kind of, in a way, has him go freaking nuts and briefly go into his mother's mind. And that kind of convinces him to basically cover herself up a little bit more. Yeah, that's kind of basically what happens here. We also have the Thing looking like this, briefly. Because he's possessed. Yep. That's Namor for you. Now, the annual itself was not part of any annual crossovers. It's just a regular standard annual with multiple stories. Wheels of Bureaucracy. You have 3 stories here. Mobius Trip, which is the first story you have it here. Mark Greenwald's story. Lynn Komeski writes the backup story in here. The first story is 36 pages. Actually, 36 pages. Second story is not that long. But yeah, the Wheels of Bureaucracy stuff. Yeah, just to play on real life stuff. And you also have the Beyond the Return here. Yes, the frickin' Beyonder. Just because. Because of Frankie Ray. Good little stuff in here. I think the story is quite fun. I still think Mark Greenwald is one of the best writers from the 80s and 90s. Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, we have some issues that are clear homage to classic Fantastic Four covers. This cover here, I believe this is a homage to, I think it was like it says Comic Galactus. It's clearly homage to Fantastic Four number 48. Yep. So pretty much you have these 3 issues simply put just basically like here. I think that's issue 49. Possibly. Yeah. Or at least could be issue 50, but 92 is when they find out about this mysterious guy in green turns to be an Ultiverse Reed Richards. Yeah. These issues are just pure fun. Love them. I give this book a 10 out of 10. It's that damn good. Yep. And they also bring back She-Thing for some issues, and she's like grotesque. Apparently Doc Doom did something to her. Yep. Also Doc Doom himself briefly dies issues. One of the several times he dies, and he takes Reed Richards with him just to play at revenge. Also, he's the one who sees basically Thing's face is like, wow, you think my face is bad? Your face is a lot worse than mine. Yes, he dares also Thing over his face, obviously. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it for this particular review. Love the stuff here. So tomorrow, expect to see possibly some, maybe a comic corner, and definitely a review for Rise here tomorrow. Okay, next video. Bye.